The Tennessee extortion statute is as wide as an interstate highway, or you could say perhaps it's as wide as an old whore, and no telling what's been in there and what you can get in there. It is a very, very loose and broad statute which targets an act which no doubt is an evil and no doubt is a crime. But the wording of the law is very loose, very wide indeed. And facing the teeth of that statute is County Commissioner Tim Boyd in an investigation brought against him by a man of the mayor of East Ridge and also a candidate for county commission who called him twice and who brought up the matter of his own donations and his own funding of his campaigns. Certainly an interesting development to bring up something on your side as the caller in the active party in the call that would seem to be to your disadvantage, bringing those things up and discussing them with the man you are trying to unseat. It seems very, very interesting and very, well, let's say very forethoughtful on the part of Brent Lambert, the man who is trying to gain ground in politics in East Tennessee. First the mayor, big on the economic development in his town, now running for county commission and calling the county commissioner twice, and then making a point of bringing up his own high vulnerability. That is to say, his donations from developers and the sifting of that cash in and out of one or another of his accounts. And so we have then this Mr. Lambert, Brent Lambert, filing a complaint, an ethics complaint against Tim Boyd for comments that Tim Boyd made in some form in these conversations, in which he says, if you bring that up, I'm gonna, if you run for office, I'm gonna bring that up. I'm gonna certainly put that against you as something bad. I wouldn't run for office. In some fashion, Tim Boyd made a statement in that direction, and the presentation of the bad news, right? The publicly available bad news, if you will, the publicly available, you could say even dirty underwear of Brent Lambert mentioned, and the fact that he pivoted on that fact, that publicly available fact, and then said to Brent Lambert, if you run, I'll mention that. So maybe you shouldn't run. The fact that he said maybe you shouldn't run, that's where the red lights are flashing. That is where the warning flags are waving, according to the district attorney and the TBI, and that is where the crime took place. The fact that Tim Boyd, the commissioner, sought to have Brent Lambert maybe just not run, in two conversations which were invited by the telephone line opened by Brent Lambert, the mayor of East Ridge. And a man who is a very active man indeed. And the statute that he is using against the commissioner is the extortion statute. And what we've had alleged, right? These are all these. I'm just saying things here based on public reports, right? This is what is being alleged in the indictment against Tim Boyd. And the extortion statute is one that targets something that is nefarious and is wrong, but is easily abused. It's easy to put mere politicking into the purview of the law. It's at Title 39, 14, 112. And a person commits extortion who uses coercion upon another person with the intent to obtain property, services, or advantage or immunity, or to restrict unlawfully. Of course, that's sort of I'm not solipsistic, perhaps, to say in the statute it says unlawfully, to restrict unlawfully another's freedom of action. So to say that if you run for office, I'll bring this up, is viewed as extortion, and it is alleged that somehow Tim Boyd did this, that Tim Boyd raised this issue. The one that raised this issue following the conversation brought on by Brent Lambert, and said, well, if you run for office, I'll bring this up. Okay. This is just politics. This is just politics. And think of all the things that are like this that could be squeezed without too much trouble into this statute. Think about this. Well, look, if you don't vote for my bill in the General Assembly, if you don't vote for my bill, I'm going to vote against your bill. Okay, so you better not bring that bill forward out of committee, because if you do, I'll vote against it, and I'll vote against your other bill too, and I'll come into your district and see that you don't get reelected. Okay, that's politics. Okay, that is purely politics, and theoretically, it could be brought into the extortion statute, because you are trying to restrict another person's activities, right? You're trying to reduce his freedom of movement, to not get that other party in politics to do something, or to do something, right? You're restricting another's freedom of action. Think about how that could apply in city elections. Well, actually, how about this? Why don't you let me know how this could be applied? You let me know, call me, and why don't you propose a way in which this statute could be abused with something which is purely a matter of the function of public office, the function of elected public office that Tim Boyd enjoys in his second or third term on the county commission, and Brent Lambert, also a mayor of a municipal corporation in the area here, in our fabulous listening range of 92.7, and simply saying, well, if you do this, then I'll do that. That is if then, right? So what can you think of an if then situation in Chattanooga or Helena County involving anybody we know, or just theorize of some elected official and say, well, in the dickering and bartering over votes, over political futures and careers pending the next campaign, I will do this if you do that, and if you do that, or if you do such and such, I will speak against you, or I will campaign in your district. That might be the worst thing that one could threaten, that I will show up in your district and say mean things about you. Right. I'll say that you're not honest. If you pass this bill, or if you push this bill any further, and if you don't withdraw this bill, I'm going to speak against you. Okay. That's the kind of thing, speaking very generically, that falls under this very wide statute. And Neil Pinkston, of course, is taking up this grievance as the prosecutor. He represents the state, which is this religious corporation. It is a legal fiction called the state of Tennessee, and he somehow represents this body, pretending somehow that this phone call that Tim Boyd received from Brent Lambert, right? Tim Boyd is the recipient of 2 phone calls, according to press reports, and had this conversation with Brent Lambert, that Brent Lambert says in press reports threatened him. There was a threat against his person, his family, his career, and his politicking, and somehow we're going to make the state of Tennessee the victim. Somehow the state of Tennessee itself, as a corporation, has somehow been injured, its peace and tranquility damaged by something Tim Boyd said in a phone call placed to him by his rival in politics. And it's strongly urging. I mean, the fact he could have requested Brent Lambert not to run, that would have been okay. But the fact that Tim Boyd perhaps insisted that Tim Boyd not run because he was going to make a big deal out of this, that's a threat. That is a crime. That is a felony. I'm sorry. I just have to hear about this story, and look at the picture. Brent Lambert is in a picture in the Time Free Press this morning taken by, well, there's no photographer's name here, but the story is by Zach Peterson, and the headline: Brent Lambert praised this FBI probe as Tim Boyd continues to deny wrongdoing. It's funny how that continues to deny wrongdoing. It makes the headline makes it sound like, well, it's just this dreary other side. We'll have to get that in the headline too to show that we're fair. Continues to deny wrong, and denying wrongdoing, of course, is not quite fair. To say deny wrongdoing implies that there is wrongdoing and that Tim Boyd is denying it. It is an unfair headline, period. Okay. Deny wrongdoing and deny that doesn't work. It doesn't work in the body type, because it suggests that the person being accused has done wrong. And he's just denying it, right? It doesn't work in a headline, and it doesn't work in body type. And the Time Free Press let that one through. As you know, the Time Free Press lets other slippages through too. I emailed Andy Schurz a couple days ago about a bad typo in his story about the alternative candidates. You know, I'm very sympathetic. David Toole is here with alternative candidates, because they are not they offer a discontinuum a discontinuity between the establishment legal political narrative, the establishment narrative, and what the real world is. And these alternative candidates, though some are very whimsical, like Coon Rippy, they're pretty whimsical and maybe a little cracked. They're very refreshing because they have something dissent. They have a dissent, and I'm a dissenter, as I hope you, my listener, might become a dissenter from the status quo. And where was I going with this? The typo. Yeah, the goldfinch flag. I mean, that's the only thing that Andy Scher quoted Basil Marceau is in saying in one paragraph that he devoted to Basil Marceau, rather a paragraph written in a way as to condescending humor. In the whole thing is written with condescending humor, which I understand it's that, but it's not unbiased. Okay, it's not really down the middle. And the expression in the story by Andy Scher of the TFP should have been gold fringed flag, FRINGED, to the gold fringe, and that's what Basil Marceau and some patriots declaim, and that is because in their view, when you have a state court with a gold fringe flag, you are saying this court is in maritime jurisdiction. In other words, it's under emergency wartime jurisdiction and not equity or not under law. And so the objection, there's something to it, though I would say that jurisdiction is not established by the flag. Jurisdiction over a person in the court is established by other means, not necessarily the flag. But it's just a misrepresentation. The typo doesn't let the reader look into that issue at all by hearing about the gold fringe flag. But a goldfinch flag, well, that's implying that somehow Basil Marceau is concerned about goldfinches on flags, and that's not true. And the problem is that the TFP didn't fix the online version of that story, just didn't fix it, even though I told the writer about it in an email, and he was good enough to respond to me. It's it's just kind of careless. So we have this Boyd continues to deny wrongdoing. Now in the press coverage, which has been very good, covered by all the TV stations and by the TFP and the Chattanooga, there have been several stories that deal with this controversy. The meeting of the county commission Tuesday, let's see, it was Wednesday. Yes, it's Wednesday. He goes to the jail to be booked. I guess I'm no doubt to meet the magistrate. You have to have the magistrate sign off on the arrest, and then he goes to the county commission meeting. And the TBI says in its release, according to Chattanoogan.com, here reading the Wednesday story, that during the course of the investigation, agents developed information that Boyd, DOB 5952, and date of birth, attempted to force an opponent to withdraw from the commissioner's race by threatening to release information Boyd perceived to be damaging to his opponent. Of course, now that's just politics. Okay, that's just pure politics. The indictment says that he did unlawfully use coercion upon another, Brent Lambert, with the intent to obtain property, services, any advantage or immunity, or restrict unlawfully another's freedom of action. That's quoting the statute. So the grand jury, the people of our county, agree that there's enough here in the accusations filed by Brent Lambert, the candidate for commissioner, to have a trial of the petit jury. The petit jury, of course, is the jury that finds the law and the facts. Right? There's the question of law, but also the petit jury determines any disputed facts. And of course, the question is, did these phone calls, of which there is a record, which Charles Dupree, the defense attorney, will have all exculpatory evidence, including the phone calls, which are the basis of the accusation, will be used by the defense. And so the jury will be determining the fact of intent. And I think it'll be very difficult to show intent, criminal intent, extortative intent in what Tim Boyd said. I mean, even if Tim Boyd really laid it on Brent Lambert to say, look, to say, if you run, I will bring this up and I will make you look bad. No matter how forcefully he used his rhetoric to make that point, or no matter how weakly, the charge is there. But I would say it's still politics. Even if he raised his voice, even if he raised it in a loud way across the phone lines, it's still just politics, as I understand it. The commissioner says in his reply that power players are anxious to see him go for taking on the Chattanooga Convention Bureau, which is a large tax receiving do-gooder agency that ostensibly promotes tourism. It is sad to know that, he says, they hate me so bad that they're trying to get rid of me. They don't like the sunshine. Calling the charge a ridiculous use of the justice system and abuse of power and an overreach. Tim Boyd says, if this is the only thing they can come up with to try to defeat me, it's pretty sad. The commissioners had on $2,500 bond, and Brent Lambert makes a statement that in which he perhaps Tim Boyd has too many flourishes to describe the rankings of his enemies against him. Maybe they're more in the picture that he creates than there really are. But Brent Lambert, for his part, has great flourishes in describing how injured he is from the phone conversations he had with the commissioner. He says, when I was threatened several weeks ago, I felt I had no recourse but to alert the authorities, he says. Citizens of District 8 are not represented by the backroom bullying that has been the standard approach by the current incumbent on any number of issues. He says, under the premise of asking the hard questions, the incumbent has appeared to be an advocate for an accountable government. Ironically, he says, his tactics and behavior demonstrate anything but an accountable government. He says he looks forward to the evidence that will soon be made available that captures the nature of the threats made against me and false accusations of any wrongdoing in my previous campaigns. I can say with all confidence that nothing I have done in any campaign, past or currently, has been illegal. And he says that the conversations he had with Tim Boyd were so scurrilous, so damning, that he wants a thorough investigation into threats that he says were made against me. Brent Lambert says, my family, my professional career, and political career. So everything. So you see, there's the threat. Clearly, the threat was to the political career, if there was a threat of Brent Lambert, and that would be in the direction of you are in bed with developers. You are looking out for this tiny fraction of wealthy East Ridge connected or East Ridge residing corporations and businesses and contractors. And here you are. You're favoring the very end of our city. And in the district, the border, the state created border district, which is a tax favored chit, if you will, to East Ridge and the people in business there. A district which strings up along the main highway, the main drag there, Ringgold Road, through town, and covers many businesses that can be part of that district. They can take part in the tax advantages of the district, but the mayor and the developers are only there at exit 1, right? The big exit where East Ridge really lives. It really lives there, not really anywhere else, but right there where it shines for the world to see, and obtains for the businesses that land there, and all the earth shoved around there, all the rock bulldozed there, to the advantage of those people, and of course people who come to shop. Those are people also advantaged by Brent Lambert's efforts in economic development. So economic development is one of his key points, and no doubt he is proud of that work there. And one can't lay upon Brent Lambert the fact that other parts of the town up the highway, they're up the street, haven't joined in the investment, the development, the borrowing, and other gains. Though there is a new Marco's Pizza being built there. It's a town that it's a lot of loss of tenants, has a lot of dead retail space, and yet Marco's Pizza, no doubt taking advantage of the border statute, the border tax advantaging statute, is building in East Ridge, one of the few developments in that town. Though elsewhere around Chattanooga, there is great development indeed. This is David Toulis. The number is 800-8949, 800-8949. Listen, you, my listener, if you have a smartphone, you are a member of our staff. You could put it that way. If you report, we share, and the world decides, and that is in the direction of, if you see something, say something. Right, the good people in Washington want you to report to the government and to snoop on people and to report, make anonymous reports about alleged misdeeds. They want you to call 911, right? That they want everyone to call 911 all the time, so that they have authority to arrest people, to stop people, to question people, to harass them. And yet, I would suggest this: if you see something, say something to us, right? Say something to Nooga Radio 92.7 FM. David Toulis, that's my name. David Toulis, loving your neighbor and suggesting you buy local. Your report and the world's decide. We're going to talk with Michael Parks next, who was handcuffed for running his camera, running his phone, and recording a public encounter from the finest in blue in Bradley County at a gas station on Sunday. And his phone was seized. And guess what? The wonderful cop deleted, Dale Liner, one of his colleagues, deleted the video of that encounter, though it was recovered. David Toulis, Nooga Radio.
The Tennessee Valley's news talk leader, Nooga Radio.